I sat in my car with the engine off, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Through the windshield, I could see the party lights glowing from my mother's house. Laughter drifted out into the night air, mixed with the sound of clinking glasses and cheerful voices. Everyone was celebrating my brother. Tonight, he was the star. I watched as my mother stood proudly on the porch, holding up a shiny new set of keys. The crowd of relatives and neighbors clapped and cheered as she placed them in my brother's hand. "You're the man of the house now," she said, her face glowing with joy. My brother puffed up his chest, grinning like he had just won the lottery. But what did I get? A couple of old chairs shoved into the back of my car earlier, some leftover food from the kitchen, and a few mumbled words from my mother about being helpful for taking the scraps. That was my share of the celebration, junk no one else wanted. I could hear the whispers. Some of my aunts shook their heads, muttering under their breath about how unfair it looked. Others smirked, enjoying the drama, their eyes flicking from my brother to me, measuring the difference. It wasn't just me who saw the favoritism. It was plain for everyone. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my face straight, but deep inside, my chest burned. I wasn't angry about the house itself. I was angry about what it meant. My mother was showing everyone, loud and clear, who mattered to her and who didn't. As the cheers grew louder and my brother held the keys up like a trophy, my mother reached out to hug him. Her voice cracked with pride when she said, "I always knew you'd make me proud." Her words cut deeper than anything else. Because for me, she had never once said those words. For me, there had only been chores, responsibilities, and silence. I sat there, feeling smaller than ever, invisible in plain sight. And as the laughter spilled into the night, my eyes blurred with tears I refused to let fall. That was the day I realized my mother didn't see me as her daughter, only as a mistake she had to tolerate. Rachel was 32, but sometimes she felt much older. Life had worn her down in ways she never expected. Before she married Daniel, things were so different. She had her own apartment in the city, a steady job she loved in marketing, and friends she could call at any time of the night. She wasn't rich, but she was proud of what she had built for herself. She paid her bills, saved a little, and enjoyed her freedom. She thought she was strong. She thought she was smart enough to never let someone control her. Then came Daniel. She met him at a friend's birthday dinner. He was the loudest voice at the table, telling stories about his business ideas, his plans, the future he said he was building. Everyone laughed at his jokes. Rachel did too. He had that kind of charm, the kind that made you believe he could light up any room. He noticed her quickly, and before the night was over, he made sure she had his number. The first months were like a dream. Daniel opened doors, sent flowers to her office, and called her every morning just to say good day. He told her she was the most important person in his life, that he couldn't believe his luck in meeting her. When he spoke about marriage, he promised stability, a home filled with love, and a partnership where she would never feel alone. Rachel believed him. She wanted to believe him. After the wedding, things shifted slowly. At first, it was little comments, suggesting she didn't need to work so hard because he could provide for them, or asking why she spent so much time with her coworkers after hours. "You have me now," he would say with a smile, as if it was a gift. He framed his words as love, as protection. She didn't realize at the time that they were seeds of control. The isolation grew in small steps. He didn't like her best friend, Sarah, said she was a bad influence. He made her feel guilty for canceling plans with him, even if it was just for a simple night out with her sister. Over time, Rachel saw less and less of the people who once filled her life. The finances came next. Daniel insisted it was more practical if they shared accounts. "Why keep things separate? We're a team," he said. She agreed, thinking it was normal for a married couple. Slowly, her paycheck was funneled into their joint account, and soon she wasn't even sure how much she had left for herself. Daniel started monitoring her spending. If she bought a new dress or had lunch out, he would ask questions, make her feel guilty, remind her of their goals. By the time she realized how much control he had, it was too late. She had let him close every door around her. He had made sure of it. Now, sitting in the same house she once thought was her dream home, Rachel felt like a stranger to her old self. She went through the motions every day, packing lunch for Ethan, cleaning the kitchen, working from home under Daniel's watchful eye. But inside, she was crumbling. She missed laughing with friends. She missed the pride of seeing her own money in her account. She missed the version of herself who believed she deserved more. Still, some part of her clung to hope. She told herself Daniel would change, that the man she met years ago was still in there somewhere. When he apologized after his outbursts, when he brought flowers or kissed her forehead as if nothing had happened, she wanted to believe it was real. She wanted to believe their marriage wasn't just a trap she couldn't escape. Rachel's heart was torn between the memory of who Daniel once seemed to be and the reality of who he had become. She told herself she was staying for Ethan, to keep his life steady, to give him both parents under one roof. But deep down, she knew she was also staying because she was afraid. Afraid of what leaving would cost her. Afraid of what Daniel might do if she tried. The woman who once stood so tall, who once believed in her strength, now lived in the shadow of a man who made her feel small every day. Yet, in the quietest corners of her heart, she still carried a spark, the faint, fragile hope that one day she could reclaim herself. That night, after the coffee incident, Rachel lay in bed wide awake. Daniel was asleep beside her, snoring softly, his arm thrown across the blanket, as if nothing had happened. The smell of burned coffee still lingered in her hair, even after she had showered. Her skin was tender to the touch. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the coffee splashing toward her again. Her heart wouldn't let her rest. Something inside her whispered that there was more, something she wasn't seeing. She thought about how quickly Daniel had demanded her credit card, how angry he became when she refused. It wasn't just about control anymore. It felt like desperation. Rachel turned her head and looked at the phone charging on his nightstand. She hesitated. She had never gone through his phone before. He guarded it closely, always keeping it locked, always suspicious if she even touched it. But tonight, her fear was stronger than her guilt. She waited until his breathing grew heavy and steady. Slowly, she slid the phone from the charger, her hands trembling. To her surprise, the screen lit up without asking for a password. He had forgotten to lock it. She told herself she would just look quickly, just enough to calm the storm in her mind. What she found broke her. The first thing she saw were text messages. Dozens of them. A woman's name she didn't recognize. Late-night messages filled with laughing emojis, hearts, and pictures. Her chest tightened as she scrolled. He had been meeting this woman, telling her lies about work trips, sending money, Rachel's money. Her throat went dry. She opened his banking app. The numbers on the screen made her stomach twist. Thousands of dollars gone, charges from casinos and online gambling sites, all tied back to her credit card. Every month she wondered why their savings never seemed to grow, even though she worked so hard. Now she knew. The betrayal was deeper than she could have imagined. It wasn't just the coffee. It wasn't just the shouting or the controlling words. He was living a double life, using her hard-earned money to gamble and spoil another woman while keeping her trapped at home. Her hand shook as she put the phone back on the nightstand. She pulled the blanket over her face, not to sleep but to hide her tears. Beside her, Daniel stirred, and for a moment she was sure he would wake up, see her shaking, and know what she had done. But he didn't. He rolled over and went on sleeping, as if nothing in the world was wrong. Rachel lay there staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She thought about Ethan in his room down the hall. She thought about the years she had given up, the people she had let go, the life she had surrendered for this man. And now she knew the truth. He was not only hurting her, he was stealing from her, betraying her, and building his lies on her back. She wanted to get up, pack a bag, and leave right then. She wanted to wake Ethan, carry him out the door, and never look back. But fear held her down. Fear of what Daniel would do if he caught her. Fear of his anger, his violence, his threats. She remembered the coffee on her skin, the sharp sting, the cold way he looked at her after. If that was what he did over a credit card, what would he do if he knew she had gone through his phone? So she stayed still, silent, pretending to sleep, though her eyes never closed. Inside her chest, something had changed. The hope she clung to was no longer about saving her marriage. It was about survival, about finding a way out without breaking apart completely. Rachel realized she couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Daniel wasn't just controlling. He wasn't just angry. He was dangerous. And sooner or later, she would have to choose between her fear of him and her chance at freedom. The days after Rachel discovered Daniel's secrets felt heavier than any she had lived before. Every time she looked at him, she saw the messages on his phone. She saw the gambling charges, the lies, the woman whose name was now burned into her mind. But she said nothing. She carried the truth quietly, because she was afraid of what would happen if he knew she had seen it. Daniel seemed sharper, more watchful than before, as if he could sense her thoughts slipping away from him. When Rachel tried to keep her distance, he noticed. When she avoided his touch, he questioned her. "What's wrong with you lately?" he would ask, his voice calm but edged with warning. If she said nothing, he would smirk, as if he had caught her in a lie. If she said, "I'm tired," he accused her of being ungrateful. The arguments grew more frequent. Sometimes they were about money. "You waste it on groceries we don't need," he snapped one morning. "You buy brand names when generic would do. Do you even know how to manage a household?" She bit her tongue, knowing the truth, that he was the one draining her account, would only lead to more violence. Other times, the fights were about Ethan. Daniel accused her of being too soft on their son, of spoiling him with affection. "He needs discipline," Daniel said after scolding Ethan for spilling juice on the carpet. Rachel wanted to protect her child, to gather him in her arms, but she also feared making things worse. Ethan's wide, frightened eyes watched every argument, and Rachel's heart broke each time she saw him shrink into himself. Daniel used his charm like a weapon too. After lashing out, he would soften his tone, bring her flowers, kiss her cheek. "I'm under a lot of pressure, babe," he would whisper. "You know I love you. Don't make me feel like the bad guy here." His words twisted her reality. For a moment, she almost believed him. That was his power, making her doubt what she knew was true. One evening, Rachel couldn't hold it in any longer. She drove to her younger sister Emily's apartment under the excuse of running errands. Emily, just 28, was bright, warm, and open-hearted. When she saw Rachel at her door, pale and quiet, she pulled her inside without hesitation. Rachel sat on the couch, hands folded tightly in her lap, staring at the floor. It took her several minutes before the words finally came out. "He threw coffee at me." Her voice was flat, almost detached. Emily's eyes widened in horror. "What? Rachel, are you serious?" Rachel nodded, tears welling despite her effort to stay composed. She told her sister about the coffee, about the yelling, about the way he controlled every dollar and every decision. She didn't mention the other woman, not yet. Even to Emily, the shame of that betrayal was too raw. Emily leaned forward, her voice shaking. "You can't stay there. You have to leave him. This isn't safe for you or for Ethan." Rachel shook her head. "It's not that simple. He said if I ever tried to leave, he'd take Ethan from me. He said no court would give me custody because I don't make enough money on my own anymore. He knows how to make it sound like I'm the unstable one." Emily grabbed her hand. "That's not true. He's just scaring you. You're his victim, Rachel. You're not crazy and you're not weak." But Rachel couldn't believe it fully. Daniel's voice echoed in her mind louder than Emily's. He had told her so many times that she was nothing without him, that no one would believe her if she spoke out. And part of her feared he was right. The breaking points kept piling up. One night, Ethan crawled into her bed after a fight between his parents. His small body trembled as he whispered, "Mommy, I don't like when Daddy yells at you." Rachel held him close, tears sliding silently down her face. In that moment, she realized her silence was shaping her son's world. Ethan was learning fear, learning to tiptoe around his father's anger the way she did. But leaving still felt impossible. Daniel reminded her daily that everything they had, the house, the car, even the savings, was under his control. "You'd be nothing without me," he said during one of their fights. "Don't forget that. If you walk out, you'll have nothing, and Ethan will stay with me. Do you really want that?" Rachel carried those words like chains. At work, she plastered on a smile, pretending everything was fine. At home, she moved carefully, measuring every word and step. Inside, though, she was crumbling. The fear of losing Ethan clashed with the fear of staying. It was a war inside her chest, one that left her exhausted every night. Emily called often after that first talk, urging Rachel to make a plan. "I'll help you," she promised. "You don't have to do this alone." But Rachel always found reasons to delay. "Not now. Ethan has school. Daniel's in a good mood lately. I just need to think." Deep down, Rachel knew there was no perfect time. She knew the risk of waiting was growing. Daniel's anger was sharper, his control tighter. And the more she stayed silent, the more dangerous it became. But fear is a powerful thing, and for now, it still held her prisoner. At night, when the house was quiet and Ethan was asleep, Rachel stared at the ceiling, listening to Daniel's breathing beside her. She thought about the woman she used to be. She thought about the little boy who deserved better. And she wondered how much longer she could survive this before something finally broke beyond repair.